Welcome back to Close Up. We continue with our gubernatorial candidates today, welcoming in the former mayor of Manchester and now Democratic candidate for governor, Joyce Craig. Mayor Craig, thanks for being here.
It's great to be here, Adam. Thank you.
So you've proposed publicly funding abortion in New Hampshire, and this is something that under Medicaid, it's currently covered for certain cases, rape, incest, life of the mother. But under your plan, how much would coverage expand, and would there be a new income threshold? Just tell us how it would work.
Sure. Adam, I believe that every Granite Stater should have access to quality, affordable health care. And abortion is health care. And New Hampshire is the only state in all of New England where Medicaid doesn't cover abortion. So when I'm governor, it won't matter whether a woman can afford health care or not. She will have access to the health care that she needs.
So where is that line drawn, and how much public money would end up being spent on abortion?
So that's yet to be seen, but what's important is that we make sure that women have access to the health care that they need, and it won't be dependent on whether they can afford it.
This idea that was recently floated by the Massachusetts, head of the transportation department to put tolls on the New Hampshire border. Your supporter, Governor Maura Healey, has distanced herself from those remarks. There is one choice quote from the secretary, quote, "I will 100% use that as a weapon. Once I say it, it is now a policy." This person is still the transportation secretary, even though she's been kind of slapped down by the governor. Doubtful that their views have changed. What would you do if someone in your administration said something like this that sounds, frankly, a little authoritarian? Would they keep their job?
Well, listen, Adam, first I want to say I do not approve more tolls on our roads. We have to do everything we can to decrease costs to our residents. And as mayor of Manchester, I did manage all of the city departments and nominated department heads and city commissioners. So I have been in the position where I've had to work with department heads to ensure that, they are following the lead of the city. And it's communication and working together. And, you've got to get to the bottom and make sure that, at the end of the day, we're doing what's right for residents of our state. And that's New Hampshire.
To be clear, would you fire someone who said something like, "We are, quote, basically going after everyone who has money"?
I would consider that, yes.
On the immigration issue, as governor, will you direct state law enforcement to cooperate fully with federal immigration enforcement efforts?
So right now in our state, our law enforcement does work with immigration, and it is working. And, in Manchester, I supported the sanctuary city policy along with law enforcement and police chiefs across this state, because the #1 priority that we have to be focused on is making sure that our residents are safe. And they believe, law enforcement believes, that doing that, implementing that policy would impact public safety in a negative way and erode trust within our residents. So that's wrong. What's happening today is working.
So to be clear, if you're governor, taking over from Governor Sununu, nothing changes in the way that state law enforcement handles immigration currently. There's been interesting bone of contention at the State House over this term. Do you consider the term illegal alien, which is a federal legal term, to be offensive?
I do. It's undocumented individuals, and we need to make sure that we are treating everyone with the utmost respect, no matter who they are. And I think what we've seen is leadership really going into negative areas, and we don't need that right now in our state. As I'm traveling around and speaking with residents, they want a leader in our state who's providing hope and who's focused on issues that matter most to them. Strengthening our public schools, increasing affordable housing, addressing rising energy costs, and protecting reproductive rights. And those are the things that I'm most focused on right now in running for governor.
Another big issue in Concord right now is transgender rights. Do you believe kids under 18 should be able to get gender reassignment surgery?
So I think that we need to be providing our students, our children, with supports right now. And I don't believe that a blanket statement from our government helps in that process. We need to make sure that our children are working with their parents, communicating with their parents, and the decision needs to be between them and their doctor.
The House and Senate have both passed different bills that essentially would divide interscholastic sports by sex at birth. So born a boy, you play with boys in sports, even if you have a different gender identity once you've grown up a little bit. If this becomes law under this current governor and legislature, will you repeal it if and when you're governor?
Yes, I would. Again, this is not a situation where the government plays a role. We have the NHIAA, who actually already has policies in place to address this, to ensure there's fairness in sports with our students. We need to be doing everything we can to encourage our youth to participate in sports, because there are tremendous benefits for them playing on team sports, being competitive, and that's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on supporting the LGBTQ and trans students in our state, not causing divide.
This issue of fairness that you bring up, if a girl in high school has trained for years, worked hard at a sport, and then loses a state championship to a trans girl who has the athletic advantage of having grown up with testosterone in her body, the idea that she's bigger, faster, stronger, and that even if you played something 100 times out of 100, the cisgender girl would never be able to win. How can you tell her, that second place finisher, that that's fair?
Adam, I think that we need to focus on the children and making sure we are doing right for all of the children in our state, and making sure there are fair policies in place that are put forward by experts, by the NHIAA, not by government putting down a blanket policy. That's wrong.
Your opponent, Cindy Warmington, has said that if she's governor, she's going to get the state to net zero emissions by the year 2040. That's not very far off. Are you making the same promise?
So listen, cutting energy costs and addressing climate is a top priority. And as mayor of Manchester, I put forward and we built the largest municipal solar array in the state. And because of that solar array and other initiatives that we put in place, we were able to cut carbon emissions by 60% in the city over the 6 years that I was here. And so we are in the process of putting together an energy policy that will have clear goals and clear ways to reach those goals. And that's really important.
Is it realistic to be able to do that by 2040, though?
I think that's something we need to consider, and I will look at that.
These campus protests against Israel, we're seeing them in New Hampshire now, too. There's now video online of one of these protest organizers at Columbia University allegedly saying Zionists don't deserve to live. Do you believe these protests are underpinned by anti-Semitism?
I first want to say that I agree with allowing students to have their First Amendment right. They have the freedom to speech. But anti-Semitism and hatred has no place in our communities or on our college campuses. And we need to be doing everything that we can to keep our students safe.
You talk about keeping students safe. Obviously, gun control is a big issue for Democrats. This is an issue on which you and your primary opponent have appeared together. It's so important. Do you want to reduce the number of AR-15 style rifles in circulation? And if the answer is yes, how do you do that?
So I want to stop the AR-15s in our communities. Yes, there is no need for those assault rifles to be in New Hampshire, and we need to be doing everything we can to protect our families. The crisis and the tragedy that we saw in Lewiston hit very close to home with residents from New Hampshire, and we need to be doing everything we can to protect our students and our families in our state, and be proactive and not reactive. I've talked to families and parents throughout our state who are concerned when they drop their kids off at school or at the mall or at a bowling alley, and that's not right. They should feel comfortable that their children are safe when they're dropping them off, and that's my goal, safety in our communities.
When you say you want to stop AR-15s in our communities, to clarify, what do you want to do about the ones that are already in circulation? So, privately owned?
Not going to address those. We're going to stop it.
Bringing you back to city politics, sorry to drag you back into Manchester always, but this recent blow-up between the Director of Housing Initiatives that you hired, Adrienne Boulogne, and the Board of Aldermen, in which she told them they, quote, don't understand the issue of homelessness. Was that a mistake for her to do that so publicly and right to their face?
Yeah, that's a tough situation, but I can say that while we had Adrienne Boulogne in the city of Manchester, we made tremendous progress in addressing homelessness in the city of Manchester. So we opened up the first city city-run, city-funded shelter at a time when all of the shelters that were funded from the state were full. So we did fatality prevention. We opened up an engagement center that put all of our nonprofits under one roof. We brought in the National Alliance to End Homelessness, working with the City of Manchester to fine-tune our programs, and hired an expert in Adrian as well as an expert in overdose prevention. And through those programs, we saw a 60% decrease in encampments outside, and we were better connecting people to the services that they need. So there was progress being made. It's unfortunate that things turned out the way they did.
To her point, do you think she's right that they don't understand?
I think that there are certain things that elected officials don't understand, and yes, but I think there's a way to go about that in showing both sides of what needs to happen, and it wasn't necessarily the right thing to do in a public meeting.
So as governor, what changes on homeless policy? Again, the state isn't necessarily responsible, and that's been a big fight between you and Governor Sununu, but what does the state do differently on homelessness under a governor?
Yes, so I think it's important this isn't just between myself and Governor Sununu. In 2020, every mayor came forward and said the #1 issue that they were facing in their communities was homelessness. And the mayors all got together recently, 2024, last month, and they said the #1 issue they were facing was homelessness. We need to really be focusing on a housing first model. Evidence shows when you can put a roof over someone's head, you can stabilize them and address the underlying issues, and that's what I do as governor.